Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So today's video is going to be the start of another new mini-series that I'm going to be doing. And it's going to be a bit of an expansion on the basic tactics series of videos that I did a while ago. So in the basic tactics videos, for those of you that don't know, I essentially went through each weapon system available to the Imperial Guard infantry. So that's heavy special weapons, heavy weapons, auto cannons, las cannons, grenade launcher, sniper rifles. Went through each one, video by video, and broke down how those weapons could work, the best place to use those weapons, and how they would perform on the battlefield, essentially. Now, I want to do something similar, but I want to take it to the next level. I want to look at some... I don't want to cover every single unit. It may get to that, but I don't really want to cover every single unit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some of the key units in the Imperial Guard. Some bread and butter units, things that you shouldn't be going into battle without, and how you can get the most out of them, the way you should be using your units, essentially. So today we're going to start off with, I think, the classic, the simplest yet one of the most interesting units that we have as the Imperial Guard, and that is the humble infantry squad. Now, the infantry squad is an absolute staple of the Imperial Guard, even more so than tactical marines are for space marines. You see, and this is described very well in the codex, but guardsmen are used for every conceivable action in the Imperial Guard. And that is true also on the tabletop. Guardsmen are used for absolutely everything, from first waves to distract your enemy, to holding up in buildings and holding onto objectives, to just providing general support and deep strike screening. There's pretty much nothing that a guardsman squad can't do. Now that's not to say that the guardsman is a super weapon. No, I mean, guardsmen are some of the most cannon fodder that you can get out there. They're extremely expendable, but they're also extremely versatile. And unlike Space Marines, who can get away without taking tactical squads, in fact, you will find most Space Marine players don't like tactical squads and prefer to run scout squads instead. Just someone somewhere did some maths hammer once and determined that scout squads were better. Fair enough. Unlike that, guardsmen, you need guardsmen in a successful Imperial Guard army. You just need them. But you can't get around it. Back in the day, back in previous editions, you could have got away with running veterans instead of guardsmen, but we can't do that anymore. Simple fact is that's because guardsmen are our only effective line infantry unit now. Veterans are elites. Can only take 3 of those, as per the latest 8th edition FAQ. Conscripts are, well, after extensive testing, guys, since the latest big FAQ, conscripts are still complete dog shit. I've used them in 5 games, and in 5 games, they've precisely let me down. So, there you go. There goes that little nugget. But Scions are not really line infantry. Scions are a very, very good unit, but they're not line infantry. So the bulk of the lifting, I suppose you would say, falls to the guardsmen. Now let's take a look at the unit. Let's do a basic unit. Just look at break down. A squad of guardsmen. In a squad of guardsmen, you pay 40 points and you get 10 guys. The sergeant is essentially free. The guards stats are very, very average. You've got weapon skill 4 plus ballistic skill 4 plus strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, and like a 5 plus save, and leadership 6. Now, in previous editions, guardsmen had leadership 7, and the sergeant gave you leadership 8. That has changed now, where guardsmen have leadership 6, and sergeants give you leadership 7. Now, that's not great. I would say the number one weakness of guardsmen now is poor leadership. Simply put, guys, you will lose guardsmen to battle shock. I had at the beginning of 8th edition this obsession with not losing guys to battle shock. It's inevitable. You just can't help it, especially if you're not running someone like Cathachans or Mordians. Mordians can deal with it a bit, but now the FAQ has changed things where you have to pick whether you're using a commissariat leadership or bonuses from your own regiment trait and regimental flag. Yeah, so the biggest weakness of Guardsmen is their leadership, but apart from that, they're pretty good. I mean, for 40 points, you get a very respectable unit there. Now, I mentioned earlier, Guardsmen can be used for anything, and that is very true. You can use Guards for anything, but it's very important when you're putting your Guardsmen into your list to try and build them for a specific role. Okay, they can do anything, but like any tool in the Imperial Guard, we need to be, like any unit in the Imperial Guard, we need to be able to apply the correct tools for the job. And that can be tricky. Not going to lie, that can be tricky, but generally Guardsmen do need to have, when you're putting them into your list, you need to have an idea of what they're going to be doing. Okay, don't just chuck them in there because Mordian Glory says take Guardsmen. No, like, you need to have a role for your Guardsmen. So, let's say you are playing a heavily armoured force. Okay, you're running 4 to 5 Leman Russes, back that up with maybe some basilisks and some other artillery. But the point I'm trying to get across is you've got a lot of big guns on a lot of armoured platforms. You've got to really sort of ask yourself, okay, I've got all these big guns. Do I really need to be putting big guns on my Guardsmen as well? I mean, I'm already bringing, you could easily bring 4 to 5, 4 Leman Russes, 4 basilisks. You could easily do that. Maybe even 5 of each, and you would have a lot of firepower there. You'd have at least sort of 5 battle cannons, at least 5 earth shakers. Who knows if you maybe you put heavy bolters in each one of those basilisks. You've got maybe 3 heavy bolters in each one of those Leman Russes as well. Ask yourself this question: is there any point in putting heavy weapons on your Guardsmen? What role are these Guardsmen going to play in your army? Well, in that situation, my advice would be those Guardsmen are going to be screening. They're going to be deep striking, denying. Their job in that situation is to buy time. Their job is to buy time and allow the tanks to do their jobs. Okay? Because essentially, we would love to completely trick out all our units all the time. That's another video I'm going to do. We'd love to, give all our units the best equipment all the time, but that's not practicable. So that in that situation, if you've spent 1,000, let's say you're playing a 2,000 point game, if you spent 1,500 points on serious armor, then your Guardsmen, you need to be able to basically spend. You need to buy 10 squads of Guardsmen essentially, and have 100 infantry, and then you have enough screening for your tanks to do the heavy lifting. Okay. And also maybe you've put things like melter guns and las cannons on your tanks and blah blah blah. Maybe the Guardsmen will be providing quite a lot of serious anti-infantry to your force. Now the other question might be is what if you're running, and I don't want to give an example of every single kind, but another example of what Guardsmen could do is, what if, like my Steel Legion, what if you're running a mechanized list? Now when I initially started playing Steel Legion with my mechanized army, with my full mechanized army, the first few games I consistently made the same mistake, which is I was using my Guardsmen to screen my tanks, because that's what I'd always done as a mostly foot commander. And then I learned that that's not the way to do it. Your chimeras are there to protect your Guardsmen in that situation. And what function do the Guardsmen serve? The complete opposite of in the other list we talked about with the Leman Russes and the Basilisks. Your Guardsmen are a very valuable commodity. In my Steel Legions, I've only got 60 Guardsmen, and their job is to cap objectives. Their job is really important. They are my objectives secured, and it's a very finite resource I have in that list, because if I get all 60 Guardsmen out, my opponent will very easily kill all 60 of those. So it's really important for me and my Steel Legion to husband my objective secured and to not squander it. So you see how the role is completely different. Same unit, same unit, same points limit, but completely different armies, and therefore my guardsmen play a completely different role. So this is what I'm trying to get across to you. Guardsmen can do anything, but they have to have the right tools to do that job. If you're playing a foot horde list, if you're playing mass infantry, guardsmen are going to be providing the bulk of bodies for your list. But you're only going to be running, when you think about it, even if you have some artillery support, you're only going to have like 3 squads of veterans. Your guardsmen in that situation are going to have to be doing the main damage in your army. And the veterans are going to be as more of a scalpel. In that case, you want to make sure your guardsmen are armed with some serious firepower so they can do some major damage. There's no point in having a 200, 300 strong, 2,000 point infantry force if every single one of those guys is just armed with lasguns. No, in that situation you would need to make sure your guardsmen had the tools to deal with things that are much bigger and scarier than them, namely las cannons, plasma guns, or melter guns. Now, so that's the, like I said, that's the thing I'm really trying to get across here. Guardsmen can do anything, but they're only really successful if you have a specific role for them in your army. Okay, anyway, no more repetition. Now, some of you might be saying, well, what if I don't really know what I'm going to be facing? What if I don't know what kind of army I want to use yet? What if I'm just not sure on how I want to run my guardsmen? What is Mordian Glory? What is the take all comers standard loadout that you would recommend for an infantry squad? Okay, I have 2 basically, and they're both equal, and they're both very similar. I tend to run my guardsman units with heavy bolter plasma gun. That is what I would consider the take all comers list. And if you've got enough points, heavy bolter, plasma gun, plasma pistol. That's 60 points, and you get a unit there which can literally handle anything. The heavy bolter gives you a decent amount of long range, high volume firepower. The plasma gun and plasma pistol give you the means to deal with any high value, high toughness target. Now, you could, if your meta, if your tournament, if the restrictions allowed you, you could just take that over and over and over again. You'd probably kill yourself from madness, but you could take that over and over and over again, and it would work quite well. The thing is, it's one problem that list has is it doesn't have the ability to do more than 2 damage in one go. The plasma gun's overcharge will do 2, but that's it. My other take all comers suggestion would be the go big or go home squad, and that's where you take a las cannon instead. And you rely on the fact that you can pump out 4 shots per guardsman with first rank fire, second rank fire, and you have your plasma gun and las cannon specifically targeting high value things, and you just have your guardsmen going full auto on first rank fire, second rank fire pretty much every turn. That is the other option. But those are the 2 most successful loadouts that I have found, especially when running a really, really heavy infantry army. They're my 2 take all comers. Most, if you're running a hybrid list or a full foot list, they would be my 2 recommendations. So, what I'm interested in hearing is, how do you guys cut out your infantry squads? Because like I said, I love the heavy bolter plasma gun, but maybe some of you out there have been finding, well, I prefer flamers or I prefer grenade launchers. Let me know what you think. Honestly, I think plasma guns are a really, really good weapon, and they're very cheap, so that's why you should be putting them on your guardsmen. But let me know what you think. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.